Andariel.
Andariel has stolen sensitive technological data from South Korean companies.
Its name was Andariel, also known as APT-45, an advanced persistent threat that would soon become one of North Korea's most enduring and insidious cyber operations. Like a virus lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to strike, Andariel spent its early years in the digital underground, honing its skills and biding its time. The cybersecurity world remained largely unaware of its existence, even as it silently infiltrated systems and gathered intelligence. APT-45's emergence marked a significant evolution in state-sponsored cyber espionage. Unlike conventional malware that spreads indiscriminately, APTs like Andariel are meticulously crafted to target specific organizations or sectors. They're the digital equivalent of a precision-guided missile, designed to penetrate defenses and maintain long-term access to compromised networks. But in 2015, the Phantom finally stepped into the light, revealing itself as a force to be reckoned with in the cyber battlefield. The emergence of Andariel marked the beginning of a new chapter in cyber warfare. As the digital world held its breath, waiting to see what this Phantom from North Korea would do next, one thing was clear. The rules of engagement in cyberspace had changed, and Andariel was writing the new playbook. The year 2016 marked a chilling escalation in Andariel's cyber warfare capabilities. Like a predator evolving to take down larger prey, APT-45 set its sights on a new target, the beating heart of South Korea's financial sector. In the shadowy world of state-sponsored hacking, malware is the weapon of choice. For this operation, Andariel deployed a particularly insidious piece of code known as Rifle. This wasn't your garden variety virus. Rifle was a precision instrument, crafted with surgical intent to infiltrate and compromise financial systems. The technical details of the attack remain shrouded in secrecy, but cybersecurity experts familiar with APT-45's tactics can paint a chilling picture of what likely transpired. Rifle, true to its name, was designed for accuracy and impact. It would have exploited vulnerabilities in the target's network defenses, slipping past firewalls and antivirus software like a ghost in the machine. Once inside, Rifle could have performed a variety of nefarious functions, from data exfiltration to establishing backdoors for future attacks. In the context of a financial organization, the potential for damage was staggering. Customer data, transaction records, and even the integrity of financial systems themselves could have been compromised. The exact scope of the attack remains unclear, but the mere fact that APT-45 targeted a South Korean financial institution speaks volumes about their growing ambition and capabilities. For the cybersecurity community, this incident was a wake-up call. It demonstrated that APT-45 was no longer content with small-scale operations or gathering intelligence. They were now willing and able to strike at the very foundations of a nation's economy. The use of Rifle against a financial target represented a significant evolution in their tactics, signaling a new phase in the ongoing cyber Cold War. The 2016 attack on South Korean financial infrastructure wasn't just another data breach. It was a shot across the bow, a declaration that no sector was safe from the reach of state-sponsored hackers. As the digital dust settled, one thing became clear. The rules of engagement in cyberspace had changed, and Andariel was writing the new playbook. But as we will soon find out, the group didn't discriminate in its choice of targets. This diverse targeting strategy set Andariel apart from other APT groups. While some focused solely on financial gain or industrial espionage, Andariel's approach suggested a broader, more strategic objective. By infiltrating government agencies, military organizations, and financial institutions, the group was positioning itself to gather a wide range of valuable intelligence and potentially disrupt critical infrastructure. In the shadowy realm of cyberspace, where digital phantoms dance on the edge of detection, Andariel's ambitions grew darker and more daring. The year 2019 marked a turning point, a moment when the world can no longer ignore the looming threat. September 2019, the hammer fell. The US Treasury, like a grim reaper passing judgment, sanctioned 3 North Korean hacking groups, Lazarus, Blunerov, and our very own Andariel. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist, it was a declaration of digital war. The Treasury's action came in response to a chilling revelation from UN Security Council experts. North Korean hackers had orchestrated cryptocurrency heists, resulting in staggering financial losses of $571 million between 2017 and 2018. But Andariel, that insidious digital specter, was far from finished. In a move that sent shockwaves through the cybersecurity community, APT-45 set its sights on a target that made even the most hardened analysts break out in a cold sweat: nuclear facilities. In 2019, like a thief in the night, APT-45 infiltrated the digital defenses of nuclear research facilities and power plants. Among their targets stood the Kudankulam nuclear power plant in India, a behemoth of critical infrastructure. This wasn't just another hack, it was a brazen assault on the very foundations of national security. For the first time, the world glimpsed the true extent of North Korea's cyber capabilities and their willingness to target the most sensitive of infrastructures. The technical implications were staggering. Nuclear facilities operate on air-gapped networks, isolated from the internet to prevent exactly this kind of intrusion. For APT-45 to breach these defenses meant they had developed sophisticated techniques to jump air gaps or exploit human vulnerabilities in ways previously thought impossible. But Andariel's hunger for data and disruption knew no bounds. In September 2020, as the world grappled with a global pandemic, APT-45 turned its attention to an unexpected target: the crop science division of a multinational corporation. This wasn't just corporate espionage, it was a calculated move to exploit global vulnerabilities. The timing was no coincidence. With COVID-19 disrupting global supply chains and border trade, North Korea faced exacerbated agricultural production challenges. APT-45's targeting of crop science research wasn't just about stealing trade secrets. It was about survival, about finding ways to feed a nation in the face of unprecedented global disruption. From cryptocurrency heists to nuclear facilities to agricultural research. Andariel's expanding scope of attacks painted a picture of a threat actor evolving at an alarming rate. Each new target demonstrated not just technical prowess, but a strategic depth that kept cybersecurity experts awake at night, wondering where the next attack would land. April 2021 saw the emergence of a new terror, Maui ransomware. This digital plague targeted the very institutions meant to save lives, healthcare organizations across the United States. As one cybersecurity expert grimly noted, Maui ransomware started attacks in April 2021, maintaining an apparent focus on healthcare organizations in the United States. The timing couldn't have been more diabolic. With the world still reeling from a global pandemic, Andariel struck at the heart of medical infrastructure. Maui wasn't just another piece of malware, it was a precision-guided cyber missile designed to encrypt critical healthcare data and hold it for ransom. The potential for chaos was unthinkable. Patient records locked away, life-saving equipment rendered useless, all at the whim of faceless attackers. But Maui was just the beginning. As if one digital demon wasn't enough, 2021 saw the rise of another, shattered glass. This ransomware, like a dark mirror reflecting APT-45's growing ambitions, was identified by Kaspersky and linked to suspected APT-45 clusters. Shattered glass, true to its name, threatened to shatter the digital defenses of its targets. Unlike Maui's focus on healthcare, shattered glass seemed to cast a wider net, hinting at APT-45's expanding horizons and growing technical capabilities. But Andariel wasn't content with just 2 new weapons in its arsenal. In a move that demonstrated their continued interest in financial targets, APT-45 was observed spear phishing a South Asian bank. This wasn't a broad, scattershot approach. It was a targeted strike, a digital stiletto aimed at the heart of financial infrastructure. The spear phishing attack on the South Asian bank showcased APT-45's evolving tactics. By crafting highly convincing emails tailored to bank employees, the group sought to exploit the weakest link in any security chain: human trust. One wrong click, one moment of misplaced faith, and the entire financial institution could be compromised. As 2021 drew to a close, the cybersecurity landscape had been irrevocably altered. In November 2022, they turned their gaze to the skies, infiltrating the digital fortress of a U.S. defense contractor. The breach was surgical, precise, from which they extracted more than 30 gigabytes of data, including unclassified technical information regarding material used in military aircraft and satellites, much of which was from 2010 or earlier. 30 gigabytes, a treasure trove of aerospace secrets, ripped from secure servers and vanished into the ether. The fact that much of the data was over a decade old didn't diminish its value. In the world of military technology, even outdated information can be a goldmine for those looking to catch up. As 2023 dawned, Andariel unveiled a new weapon in their digital arsenal. Security analysts, peering into the code like digital archaeologists, discovered a previously undocumented remote access Trojan, rat, named Early Rat, used by Andariel, a subgroup of the Lazarus North Korean state-sponsored hacking group. Early Rat wasn't just another piece of malware. It was a testament to Andariel's evolving capabilities. This rat, like its biological namesake, could burrow deep into systems, establishing persistent access and exfiltrating data with a stealth that sent shivers down the spines of network defenders. But perhaps most chilling was the group's relentless focus on the health sector. As the year progressed, cybersecurity watchers noted with growing alarm activity observed from APT 45 indicating continued interest in health-related research in 2023 suggests the continued assignment of resources to related targeting. This wasn't just cyber espionage. It was a sustained campaign targeting the very foundations of medical advancement. What secrets were they after? What breakthroughs did they seek to steal or sabotage? As 2023 drew to a close, one thing was clear. Andariel had evolved from a mere hacking group into a digital leviathan, its tentacles reaching into the most sensitive sectors of society. Healthcare, defense, cutting-edge research, nothing seemed beyond their reach or beneath their notice. The question that haunted the cybersecurity community wasn't just what Andariel would target next, but how to stop a threat that seemed to grow more sophisticated with each passing day. In the vast digital ocean, Andariel had become the apex predator, and the world's most secure networks were starting to look like prey. In the sweltering heat of July 2024, the digital manhunt reached its fever pitch. The shadowy figure known as Rim Jong-hyuk, a key operative of the Andariel unit, had become the most wanted man in cyberspace. On July 24th, the hammer fell. A federal arrest warrant was issued for Rim Jong-hyuk in the United States District Court, District of Kansas, after he was charged with conspiracy to commit computer hacking and conspiracy to commit promotion money laundering. The charges were a mouthful of legalese, but to those in the know, they represented the culmination of years of digital forensics and international cooperation. Conspiracy to commit computer hacking, a charge that encompassed a litany of digital sins. Every breached firewall, every exploited vulnerability, every exfiltrated byte of data now had a name attached to it. And that name was Rim Jong-hyuk. But the conspiracy didn't stop at mere hacking. The money laundering charge hinted at a more insidious operation, one that sought to turn digital mayhem into cold, hard cash. It was a reminder that in the world of state-sponsored cyber warfare, profit often walked hand in hand with chaos. The very next day, July 25th, the stakes were raised to dizzying heights. The U.S. State Department is offering a reward of up to $10 million for information that could help capture a North Korean military hacker identified as Rim Jong-hyuk. $10 million, a bounty that turned every dark corner of the internet into a potential hunting ground. This wasn't just a manhunt. It was a global game of digital hide-and-seek, with Rim Jong-hyuk as the elusive prey. Every server log, every IP address, every digital footprint left behind in years of cyber operations now became a potential clue. The cybersecurity community buzzed with speculation. Where was Rim Jong-hyuk hiding? In some nondescript government building in Pyongyang, orchestrating attacks from behind a wall of proxies and VPNs? Or had he gone to ground, severing all digital connections in a desperate bid to avoid detection? For Rim Jong-hyuk and Andariel, the net was tightening. But in the ever-shifting landscape of cyber warfare, where today's hunter could become tomorrow's hunted, the only certainty was that the game was far from over. With Rim Jong-hyuk's last presumed location being North Korea, it's unlikely he'll ever be caught.
Today, we're diving into the wild world of cyber warfare. You know, it's not all fancy hacking montages with green text scrolling down black screens like in the movies. Nah, the real deal is way more subtle and a whole lot scarier. Let's talk about how this digital battlefield has been changing. Back in the day, cyber attacks were mostly lone wolves or small groups trying to make a quick buck or show off. But now, we're dealing with state-sponsored hacking groups with serious backing and resources. Take this group called MuddyWater, also tracked as Earth Vitala, Mercury, Static Kitten, and Seedworm. They first popped up in 2017, and they've been causing havoc ever since. They're linked to Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and Security. Yeah, that's right. We're talking government-backed cyber espionage here. MuddyWater's main game, targeting Middle Eastern countries, especially Israel. But they're not just sticking to their backyard. They've hit organizations across Europe, North America, and Asia too. Now, you might be wondering, how do these guys actually attack? Well, they're not breaking down doors or planting bugs in offices. Their weapon of choice is something called phishing. It's like phishing, but instead of using a worm on a hook, they're using fake emails to trick people into giving up sensitive info or downloading malware. One of their favorite tricks is using remote management tools, or RMTs. These are legit software tools that folks use to manage computers remotely. But in the wrong hands, they're a backdoor right into an organization's network. As we go on, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how MuddyWater operates, their evolving tactics, and the increasing sophistication of their attacks. But for now, just remember, in this new age of cyber warfare, the biggest threats aren't always the ones you can see. Sometimes, they're hiding in your inbox, waiting for you to click the wrong link. Stay tuned, folks. This story's just getting started. And trust me, it's gonna be a wild ride. Alright, let's dive into a specific case that really shows how MuddyWater operates. In September 2017, they pulled off an attack on a Saudi Arabian government entity. This wasn't just some random hack. It was a carefully crafted operation that gives us a good look at their tactics. The bait? A word document. But this wasn't your average file. It was rigged with what we call a macro, basically a set of instructions that run automatically when you open the document. Now, normally macros are used for legit stuff, but in the wrong hands, they're trouble. When researchers looked at this document, they found some red flags. The file analysis showed it had macros. It was auto-executable. It would run as soon as you opened it. It had suspicious keywords, and it had base 64 strings. A way of encoding data. But here's where it gets really interesting. The macro wasn't just there to look pretty. It was designed to do two main things. First, it would disable security settings in Microsoft Excel and Word. It did this by changing some values in the Windows registry, basically telling the computer, hey, everything's fine here. No need to be suspicious. Specifically, it would disable or lower security settings within Microsoft Excel and Word by altering corresponding registry keys with values of 1, meaning enable all. Second, it would fingerprint the victim's computer. It grabbed the IP address by querying the Win32 network adapter configuration class. Think of this like the hacker equivalent of casing a joint before a big heist. The end game of all this? To deploy what's called an information stealer, Trojan. Once in place, this nasty piece of software could siphon off sensitive data from the infected computer. But MuddyWater didn't stop there. They set up a clever way to maintain access and communicate with the infected machines. They used scripts to stay persistent on the system and communicated through hacked websites that acted as proxies. This made it harder to trace the attack back to them. This attack shows just how sophisticated MuddyWater was getting. They weren't just breaking in. They were setting up shop, ready for long-term espionage operations. And remember, this was just the beginning of their story. Alright, let's talk about the mind games these hackers are playing. MuddyWater's whole operation relies heavily on something called social engineering. We saw that MuddyWater uses phishing campaigns as their main way of getting into systems. They're not just randomly spamming people. These attacks are carefully crafted to trick specific targets. For example, In June and July 2024, they shifted to using more generic-themed phishing lures. The campaign pushes the malware via phishing emails disguised as invitations to webinars or online courses. This shows they're tapping into people's desire for professional development or education. They're also adapting their language to match their targets. They're tailoring their approach to seem more credible to their victims by increasing the use of English language in their lures. Another key point is their use of compromised organizational accounts. This means when you get an email from them, it might look like it's coming from someone you know or trust within your own organization. We also see them abusing legitimate services like Ignite, a file-sharing platform. This plays into people's tendency to trust familiar, reputable services. All of these tactics, the professional development lures, the use of familiar language, the compromised accounts, the abuse of trusted services, they're all designed to lower people's guard and make them more likely to click on that malicious link or download that infected file. Their methods are constantly evolving, always looking for new ways to trick people into letting them in. Alright, let's dive into what went down in 2018. This is when MuddyWater really started to ramp things up. From September to November 2018, these guys went on a hacking spree. According to the data we have, they hit over 130 victims across 30 different organizations. That's a lot of damage in just a few months. They were compromised by Seedworm's PowerMud backdoor. Now, let's talk about this PowerMud backdoor. This was a new tool in MuddyWater's arsenal. A backdoor is basically a secret way into a computer system. Once it's installed, the hackers can come and go as they please, often without the victim even knowing. But here's where it gets really interesting. MuddyWater wasn't just using their own custom tools. They were also using what we call living off the land techniques. This means they were using legitimate tools that are already on most computers, but for malicious purposes. Specifically, they were using tools called Lazine and CrackMapXEC. These are publicly available tools that folks might use for legitimate reasons. But in the wrong hands, they're perfect for stealing passwords and other credentials. The group didn't just use these tools as is. They customized them for their operations. Their targets were all over the place. We're talking telecommunications companies, its services, oil and gas sector, universities, and even embassies. This wide range of targets suggests they were casting a wide net, possibly gathering intel on a large scale. This period in 2018 marks a significant escalation in MuddyWater's activities. They expanded their reach, introduced new tools like the PowerMud backdoor, and showed off their ability to use and customize publicly available hacking tools. It's a clear sign that they were becoming more sophisticated and more dangerous. In January 2022, things got real serious for MuddyWater. The U.S. Cyber Command officially linked them to Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and Security, or MOIS. This wasn't just some random hacker group anymore. We're talking about state-sponsored cyber espionage. The U.S. Cybercom officially linked MuddyWater to Iran's MOIS, the country's leading government intelligence agency. Just a month later, in February 2022, we saw another big development. U.S. and UK agencies exposed new malware that MuddyWater was using. The star of the show was something called Small Sieve, a Python backdoor used by MuddyWater operators for persistence, and a PowerShell backdoor used to encrypt command and control, or C2, communication channels. Now, let's break down what makes Small Sieve tick. First off, it uses the Telegram bot API for its command and control communication. That's pretty clever. It's hiding its traffic in a legitimate service that millions of people use every day. It also employs custom string and traffic obfuscation techniques. This is all about hiding what the malware is doing, making it harder for security folks to spot and analyze. The malware is distributed as a 16 MB NSI's installer named gramapp.exe. NSI's is a legitimate tool for creating Windows installers, so again, they're hiding malicious stuff inside something that looks normal. For persistence, that's how malware stays on a system even after a reboot. Small sieve uses a registry run key. Specifically, it adds itself to the registry. Notice how they spelled Microsoft wrong there? That's a little detail that might help it slip past someone who's not looking too closely. Small sieve can do a bunch of things once it's on a system. It supports commands like delete, download, change token, and disconnect. This gives the attackers a lot of flexibility in what they can do on an infected machine. All of this shows how MuddyWater keeps adapting and improving their tools. They're constantly playing this cat-and-mouse game with cybersecurity defenders, always looking for new ways to hide their activities and keep their foothold in compromised systems. Alright, let's dive into what went down with MuddyWater in 2023 and 2024. This is when things really started heating up. In October 2023, the Israel-Hamas war kicked off. Now, you might wonder, what's that got to do with cybersecurity? Well, for MuddyWater, it was like a starting gun. Our sources tell us, and I quote, MuddyWater, an Iranian threat group affiliated with the MOIs, has significantly increased its activities in Israel since the beginning of the Israel-Hamas war in October 2023. This shows how these cyber threats can be tied to real-world events. Now, let's talk about how MuddyWater changed their game. They started using more generic-themed phishing lures. We're talking about stuff like invitations to webinars or online courses. It's a smart move. These kinds of emails are pretty common, so they're less likely to raise red flags. But the real kicker came in May. That's when MuddyWater rolled out a new custom backdoor called Bubsleep. Bubsleep is a new tailor-made malware used in MuddyWater phishing lures since May 2024, partially replacing their use of legitimate RMM tools. Let's break down what makes Bubsleep tick. First, it uses scheduled tasks to stick around on infected systems. This is a persistence method. It's how the malware makes sure it doesn't get kicked off when you restart your computer. Second, it's got some fancy evasion techniques. It raises the Microsoft signed-only flag of the process signature policy structure, as well as raising the prohibit dynamic code flag for the process dynamic code policy structure. These are ways to avoid detection by security software, like an EDR. All of this shows how MuddyWater keeps adapting and improving their tools. They're not just sticking with off-the-shelf stuff anymore. They're building custom malware tailored to their needs, and they're getting more sophisticated about hiding their tracks. Alright, let's dive into the peak of MuddyWater's activities in June and July 2024. This is where all their tactics came together in a perfect storm of cyber attacks. During this period, MuddyWater campaigns targeted diverse sectors, including government, municipalities, airlines, and media outlets. They weren't just focusing on one area anymore. They were casting a wide net across multiple countries, including Israel, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, India, Portugal, and Azerbaijan. What made this campaign so effective was the way MuddyWater combined different tactics. They used phishing, custom malware, and even abused legitimate services. Let's break down the Bubsleep infection chain. It starts with an email. These were disguised as invitations to webinars or online courses. The campaign pushes the malware via phishing emails disguised as invitations to webinars or online courses. This email contains a PDF attachment. The PDF redirects you to an Ignite subdomain. Ignite is a legitimate file-sharing platform, which MuddyWater abused for malware delivery. On this Ignite page, there's a zip archive. Inside that zip is the Bubsleep executable, the custom malware. Once that EXE runs, it injects itself into a legitimate executable on the system. Finally, it establishes communication with the command and control. C2 server. It's like a digital Matryoshka doll, with each layer hiding something nastier. But here's the real kicker. This isn't just hitting one type of target. We're seeing attacks on governments, city offices, airlines, media companies. MuddyWater's casting a wide net, and they're catching some big fish. Now, you might be thinking, surely big companies and governments have top-notch security? And you'd be right. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, it all comes down to people. All it takes is one person to click the wrong link, download the wrong file, and the whole system comes crashing down. That's the genius of MuddyWater's approach. They're not just exploiting tech vulnerabilities, they're exploiting human nature, our curiosity, our trust, our desire to learn and improve. They're turning our best qualities against us. And that, folks, is what makes this the perfect storm. It's not just about the tech, it's about the human factor. And in the world of cybersecurity, that's always the hardest part to defend against. All right, let's dive into the bigger picture of what we've learned about MuddyWater. Their targets have been diverse, covering sectors from A to Z. What's particularly interesting is how their activities have been linked to geopolitical events. This brings us to a critical point. MuddyWater isn't just any hacking group. State-sponsored cyber espionage can be used for various purposes: gathering intelligence, economic espionage, or even as a form of geopolitical pressure. The diverse range of targets MuddyWater has gone after suggests they're casting a wide net, potentially gathering information on multiple fronts. The cybersecurity community has been actively tracking and responding to MuddyWater's activities. We've seen US and UK agencies expose new malware used by the group, such as the small Sieve Python backdoor in February 2022. However, MuddyWater has shown a consistent ability to evolve and adapt their tactics. They've gone from using off-the-shelf tools to developing custom malware, like Bugsley. They've also shown sophistication in their use of legitimate services like Telegram API and Ignite for their operations, which can make detection more challenging. The group's use of phishing, social engineering, and their ability to compromise organizational email accounts for their campaigns presents ongoing challenges. It highlights the importance of user awareness and robust email security measures. As MuddyWater continues to evolve, the global cybersecurity community will need to stay vigilant, continually updating detection methods and sharing information to counter this persistent threat. Well, what do you think? These guys are like chameleons. Or what? They started back in 2017 with some basic phishing tricks, but man, have they upped their game. It's like watching a hacker grow up before ours. One big takeaway: never underestimate the power of a good disguise. MuddyWater's been playing dress-up with their attacks, making them look like innocent webinars or online courses. It's like the digital equivalent of a wolf in sheep's clothing, and it's working. Now, let's talk about the future of cyber threats. If MuddyWater's taught us anything, it's that the bad guys are always evolving. We're seeing more state-sponsored groups, more sophisticated tools, and more abuse of legitimate services. It's not just about viruses anymore. It's about turning the tools we trust against us. Remember how they use Telegram for their command and control? Or how they're abusing Ignite to deliver malware? That's the future, folks. The line between safe and dangerous is getting blurrier by the day. But it's not all doom and gloom. We can fight back. Here's what you can do. Stay skeptical. If an email looks fishy, it probably is. Even if it's from your boss asking you to click a link, double check. Keep your systems updated. A lot of these attacks rely on outdated software. Don't make it easy for them. Educate yourself and your team. The more you know about these threats, the better you can spot them. Use multi-factor authentication. It's like adding an extra lock to your door. Be careful with file-sharing platforms. They're useful, but as we've seen with Ignite, they can also be a Trojan horse. Remember, in this digital age, we're all on the front lines. Whether you're a tech whiz or just someone who uses email, you have a role to play in keeping the internet safe. The game never ends. Stay safe out there, folks. In the dark corners of the digital world, a sinister discovery was made. As Wired reported, a secretive network of around 3,000 ghost accounts on GitHub has quietly been manipulating pages on the code hosting website to promote malware and phishing links. This chilling revelation came to light through the tireless efforts of Checkpoint researchers between May 2023 and June 2024. Like detectives uncovering a vast criminal conspiracy, they peeled back the layers of GitHub's seemingly innocuous community to expose a network as intricate as it was malevolent. The Stargazer's Ghost Network. Imagine, if you will, a bustling digital bazaar. GitHub, a platform where millions of developers share and collaborate on code, serves as this marketplace of ideas. But lurking among the honest merchants were spectral entities, 3,000 strong, each playing a part in an elaborate deception. These ghost accounts weren't content to haunt the shadows. No, they manipulated GitHub's very fabric, weaponizing its community features with surgical precision. Starring, forking, watching. Innocuous actions to the uninitiated, but in the hands of these digital poltergeists, they became tools of legitimacy. For the uninitiated, starring on GitHub is akin to giving a thumbs up. Forking creates a personal copy of a project, and watching keeps you updated on changes. And what treasures did these phantom repositories offer? A veritable smorgasbord of digital temptations, social media tools promising effortless fame, gaming cheats whispering of easy victories, cryptocurrency software dangling the lure of instant wealth, all targeting Windows users, those eager souls searching for free solutions to their digital desires. But these weren't mere harmless programs. They were Trojan horses, each one a vessel for malware and phishing links. Like a poison apple offered by a witch in a fairy tale, these tools promised power but delivered peril. The true horror lay not just in the deception, but in its scale and sophistication. This wasn't some lone hacker in a dimly lit basement. This was a coordinated effort. A phantom army 3,000 strong, each account a cog in a well-oiled machine of digital deception. Let's dissect this beast, shall we? At the heart of it all were the repository accounts. They owned the phishing repositories, the digital traps baited with malicious links. That's where the commit accounts came in. These were the busy little worker bees, constantly making commits to the repositories owned by those repository accounts. In the world of GitHub, commits are like updates or changes to the code. So these accounts were creating a facade of active development, making the malicious repositories look alive and thriving. But what's a good horror story without some juicy plot twists? Enter the release accounts. These sneaky devils were responsible for creating and adding malicious archives to the repository releases. Think of releases as official versions of the software. So these accounts were packaging up the malware nice and pretty, ready for unsuspecting victims to download. These accounts would fork, star, and like the repositories and releases. In GitHub terms, that's like creating copies, giving thumbs up, and showing interest. It's all about creating buzz, making these malicious repositories look popular and trustworthy. This structure wasn't just clever, it was diabolically resilient. If GitHub managed to catch on to one part of the network and shut it down, the others could keep on ticking. It was like trying to kill a hydra. Cut off one head, and the others keep on biting. The technical brilliance of this setup lies in its distributed nature. Each account type had a specific, limited role. This compartmentalization meant that if one account was compromised, the damage was contained. The network could quickly replace that account without exposing the entire operation. Moreover, this structure exploited the very features that make GitHub a collaborative platform. Stars, forks, and watches are meant to highlight quality repositories. By manipulating these signals, the Stargazer's Ghost Network turned GitHub's own community-driven system against itself and its users. Now, let's look at how effective this network was at spreading malware. They ran two big campaigns that we know about. First, there was the Atlantida Stealer campaign in January 2024. This was nasty stuff, malware designed to steal user credentials, cryptocurrency wallets, and other personal info. In less than 4 days, it infected over 1,300 victims. That's a lot of people's private data stolen in a very short time. The Atlantida campaign targeted people who wanted more followers on social media platforms like YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. It's a classic trick. Promise people something they want, then hit them with malware when they try to get it. Then from May to June 2024, they ran the Rhadamanthys campaign. This one infected more than 1,050 victims in just 2 weeks. The bait this time was repositories claiming to offer cracked versions of popular software. Again, they're playing on people's desires. In this case, the wish for free versions of expensive programs. Both these campaigns show how effective the Stargazer's Ghost Network was. Here in our story is where Stargazer Goblin emerged from the digital mist. On July 8, 2023, this phantom began offering services on dark web forums that would make any honest developer's skin crawl. Imagine, if you will, a marketplace where the currency is deception and the goods for sale are the building blocks of trust. That's exactly what Stargazer Goblin was peddling. Their wares? The very features that make GitHub tick. Stars, follows, forks, and watches. For the uninitiated, these are the ways GitHub users show interest in a project. The price list read like a menu of digital manipulation. Want to make your malicious repository look popular? That'll be $10 for 100 stars. Need a trusted account with an aged repository to lend credibility to your scheme? Just $2 and it's yours. It's a chilling reminder of how cheap trust can be in the digital world. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you could buy the appearance of legitimacy, and people were buying. Over its lifespan, this network of digital ghosts is estimated to have raked in around $100,000. That's $100 grand made by selling smoke and mirrors, by creating an illusion of popularity and trustworthiness for code that was anything but safe. The true horror here isn't just in the money made, it's in what that money represents. Each dollar is a measure of trust betrayed, of users deceived, of the very fabric of open source collaboration twisted to serve malicious ends. And all the while, Stargazer Goblin lurked in the shadows, orchestrating this digital deception with the cold efficiency of a puppet master. One can't help but wonder, how many other goblins are out there, pulling the strings of our digital trust? Just when we thought the horror was contained, the researchers uncovered something even more chilling. The Stargazer's Ghost Network wasn't content haunting just GitHub. No, these digital specters were spreading their tendrils across the internet. Evidence emerged of similar ghost account networks operating on other platforms, with YouTube being a prime example. It was as if the infection had found new hosts, ready to spread its malicious code far and wide. This discovery led researchers to a terrifying conclusion. What they were witnessing might be part of a larger distribution-as-a-service ecosystem. Imagine a dark, underground network where cybercriminals could rent out not just individual malware tools, but entire infrastructures for spreading their digital plagues across multiple platforms. The implications for cross-platform security are staggering. It's no longer enough to secure just one platform. The threat can jump from one to another, using the trust built on one site to lure victims on another. A perfect example of this cross-platform threat emerged when researchers found a YouTube video linked from a GitHub repository. At first glance, it seemed innocent enough. A tutorial on how to download a free version of Adobe Photoshop. But this was no helpful guide. It was a trap, leading unsuspecting users straight to Lummastealer malware. This isn't just about tricking people into downloading malware. It's about building a web of deception that spans across platforms. The GitHub repository lends credibility to the YouTube video, which in turn delivers the malicious payload. It's a digital house of mirrors, each reflection making the lie seem more real. The concept of distribution as a service takes cybercrime to a new level of organization and scale. It's not just about creating malware anymore. It's about creating entire ecosystems for distributing it, complete with fake accounts, inflated metrics, and cross-platform lures. As we uncover more about these expanding ghost networks, one thing becomes clear. The digital shadows are growing longer, and the line between what's real and what's malicious is blurring. In this new landscape, every click could be a trap, every download a potential infection. The ghosts are no longer just in the machine, they're spreading across the entire digital world. In the face of this digital nightmare, GitHub wasn't sitting idle. They had their own army, a dedicated team of digital exorcists, if you will, tasked with detecting, analyzing, and removing the malicious content and accounts that violated their acceptable use policies. These cyber defenders employed a two-pronged approach in their battle against the ghost network. First, there were the manual reviews, human eyes scanning through lines of code and user activities, looking for the telltale signs of malevolent intent. It was like searching for a needle in a haystack, but these needles could prick and infect an entire system. Alongside the human element, GitHub unleashed the power of machine learning. These artificial intelligences were trained to spot suspicious activity, evolving and adapting their tactics as the ghosts in the machine changed their strategies. It was a constant game of cat and mouse, with each side trying to outmaneuver the other in the digital shadows. GitHub isn't just any old website. It's a behemoth, a digital metropolis housing over 100 million developers and more than 420 million repositories. That's not just big, it's cosmic in scale. Imagine trying to police a city that size, where every building could potentially house a secret criminal operation. That's the challenge GitHub faces every day. The sheer scale of the platform makes it a Herculean task to completely eliminate all malicious activity. It's like trying to drain an ocean with a teaspoon. No matter how many bad actors they catch, there's always the possibility that more are lurking in the vast expanse of code. The Stargazer's Ghost Network showed just how clever these digital phantoms can be, using the very features designed to foster collaboration as tools for deception. In this digital arms race, GitHub is fighting a war on multiple fronts. They're not just battling individual hackers, but an entire ecosystem of cybercrime that's constantly evolving, adapting, and finding new ways to exploit the system. As we stand on the precipice of this digital abyss, one thing becomes clear. In the world of cybersecurity, There are no final victories. There's only constant vigilance, adaptation, and the knowledge that somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of code, new threats are always emerging from the digital darkness. As we peer into the abyss of this digital nightmare, the question arises, how do we fight back against these spectral threats? The battle must be waged on multiple fronts. Platform security is the first line of defense. GitHub's existing measures, teams dedicated to detecting and removing malicious content, manual reviews, and machine learning-based detections are a start. But they're not enough. The platform needs to evolve, to become smarter and more adaptive. Perhaps they could implement more sophisticated algorithms to detect unusual patterns in repository activities, or develop better ways to verify the authenticity of accounts and code contributions. But technology alone isn't the answer. User education is crucial. Developers and users alike need to be more aware of these threats. They need to understand that not everything that glitters in the code repository is gold. Training programs could be developed to help users spot the signs of malicious repositories. Things like examining the history and reputation of contributors, being wary of too good to be true free software offers, and double-checking the legitimacy of links before clicking. Finally, this isn't a battle that can be fought alone. The tech industry needs to come together to share information and strategies. Collaboration between platforms like GitHub, cybersecurity firms, and even law enforcement could create a more unified front against these sophisticated threats. They could establish shared databases of known malicious actors, develop industry-wide best practices for security, and work together on cross-platform threat detection. The Stargazer's Ghost Network has shown us the face of a new, more insidious type of cyber threat. It's a threat that doesn't just exploit technological vulnerabilities, but preys on human trust and the collaborative spirit of the open-source community. To fight it, we need more than just better firewalls and antivirus software. We need a holistic approach that combines improved technology, educated users, and industry-wide cooperation. In the end, the greatest weapon against these digital ghosts might just be the very thing they seek to corrupt: the power of human collaboration. For in the vast, interconnected world of code, we are stronger together than we ever could be alone.
A new predator emerged in May 2022. They called themselves the Dark Angels, a name that would soon wreak havoc across companies in the United States. Like a silent assassin, this ransomware group conducted some of the largest attacks in history, while somehow managing to fly under the radar. A chilling combination of stealth, precision, and unrelenting greed. The Dark Angels aren't just another group of nobodies playing at being hackers. No, these are professionals, cyber criminals of the highest order. They've mastered the art of ransomware. Their attacks are precise, targeted, and devastatingly effective. And in early 2024, the true extent of their devastation came to light. Threat Labs, a team of researchers, uncovered a victim who had paid a staggering $75 million to these hackers. Let that sink in for a moment. $75 million. It's a figure that makes previous ransomware payments look like loose change found, but we'll get to that later. Their method of attack is as precise as it is terrifying. Unlike the scattershot approach of lesser cybercriminals, the Dark Angels employ a highly targeted strategy. They don't swarm their victims. No, they're more akin to a skilled sniper, taking aim at a single large company at a time. This laser-focused approach allows them to breach even the most fortified networks, slipping through cybersecurity measures like a ghost through walls. Once inside, the Dark Angels begin their gruesome data harvest. For their typical victims, they extract between 1 to 10 terabytes of data. an amount that would fill thousands of novels or contain millions of sensitive records. But for the largest businesses, they've been known to siphon off between 10 to 100 terabytes of data, an amount so large it could have taken them days or even weeks to fully exfiltrate. In the dead of night, in September 2023, the Dark Angels struck. Their target, a behemoth in the world of building automation systems, Johnson Controls. The scope of the attack was staggering. The Dark Angels, true to their name, cast a shadow over the company's entire network. But the scariest part was the 27 terabytes of corporate data. Gone, stolen. To put this into perspective, it's about 6,750 HD movies. Then they turned their attention to the company's VMware ESXI virtual machines. Think of these as a cloud computer. The Dark Angels, wielding a variant of the infamous Ragnar Locker ransomware, began to encrypt these virtual machines. This Ragnar Locker variant was specially customized to target the very foundation of the company's virtual environments. It moved through the system with terrifying efficiency, locking away critical data and servers behind military-grade encryption. The attack on the VMware ESXi virtual machines was particularly devastating. These weren't just ordinary computers. It was the core of the company's IT infrastructure. By targeting these, the Dark Angels hadn't just locked away data, they had paralyzed their entire system, bringing their operations to a screeching halt. As the sun rose on that fateful day in September, the international conglomerate found itself facing a nightmare scenario. Their data was gone, their systems locked, and the Dark Angels had given them two options: pay up, or have your data published for the world to see. This attack wasn't just a breach, it was a reminder that no one is safe. They didn't just attack, they hunted, choosing their prey with calculated precision and striking where it hurt the most. And to top it off, they requested a $51 million ransom payment. It's unconfirmed if this organization ever paid the ransom. It's called the Dunghill Data Leak Site. Operated by none other than the Dark Angels themselves, its purpose is singular and chilling: to publish stolen data from victims who refuse to pay the ransom. The operation is brutally simple. Once the Dark Angels have exfiltrated data from a target, they present their demands. If the victim refuses to pay, the countdown begins. Gigabytes of sensitive information, customer data, financial records, trade secrets are uploaded to the Dunghill, available for anyone to download and exploit. The Dunghill serves as both a threat and a demonstration of the Dark Angels' capabilities. It's a warning to future victims: pay up, or watch your corporate secrets become public domain. Remember before when we briefly talked about the attack on Johnson Controls using the Ragnar Locker ransomware? Well, in the ever-evolving landscape of cybercrime, connections between different hacking groups can be as shadowy as the operations themselves. The Dark Angels and Ragnar Locker ransomware groups share a sinister link that has cybersecurity experts on high alert. The September 2023 attack on industrial giant Johnson Controls used Ragnar Locker's original ESXi encryptor. However, the exact nature of this connection remains shrouded in mystery. Is Dark Angels an offshoot of Ragnar Locker, inheriting not just their tools but their expertise? Or did Dark Angels simply acquire the source code, adding a powerful weapon to their arsenal? These questions took on new urgency in light of the international law enforcement operation against Ragnar Locker from October 16th to 20th, 2023. As authorities from 11 countries dismantled Ragnar Locker's infrastructure and arrested key figures, the cybersecurity world watched closely for ripple effects. The timing is crucial here. Dark Angel's use of Ragnar Locker's tools in September, followed by Ragnar Locker's takedown in October, paints a picture of a rapidly shifting cybercrime landscape. It's possible that Dark Angels acquired Ragnar Locker's tools just before the law enforcement operation, capitalizing on the impending disruption. Or could this be a strategic rebranding, with Ragnar Locker's recent disruption to their operations by authorities? What's clear is that the line between these two groups is blurred. As we delve deeper into the Ragnar Locker takedown, we must keep this connection in mind. The dismantling of one group doesn't necessarily mean the threat is neutralized. Instead, it may simply change form, with tools and tactics being adopted by new or evolving threats like Dark Angels. Now, before we get into the $75 million ransom payment from Dark Angels, one such incident occurred on March 21, 2021, when CNA Financial fell victim to a new strain of ransomware that would come to be known as the Phoenix Crypto Locker. This attack, while separate from the Dark Angels' reign of terror, serves as a chilling comparison in the world of ransomware. Before the Dark Angels extracted their unprecedented $75 million ransom in early 2024, CNA Financial held the dubious honor of the largest known ransom payment. They had shelled out a staggering $40 million to the notorious Evil Corp ransomware group. The Phoenix Crypto Locker attack on CNA Financial was a masterclass in hacking. Over 15,000 devices on their network fell prey to the malicious code. Each file was encrypted, ending with a Phoenix extension. Only Evil Corp knew the code to unlock it. As if to twist the knife, the attackers left a calling card. A ransom note ominously named Phoenix Help TXT. This digital note, filled with demands and threats, was the only thing they could see. The scale of the CNA Financial attack foreshadowed the big game hunting strategy that groups like Dark Angels would later perfect. These cybercriminals weren't interested in small fry. They set their sights on massive corporations, knowing that the potential payouts could be astronomical. When we compare the CNA Financial attack to the Dark Angels' later exploits, we see a clear escalation. The $40 million ransom paid by CNA, once thought to be the peak of cybercriminal audacity, was dwarfed by the $75 million extorted by the Dark Angels. This nearly doubling of the ransom amount in just a few years illustrates the rapidly evolving threat landscape. Both attacks targeted large, resource-rich organizations. However, the Dark Angels seem to have refined the technique. The progression from the CNA Financial attack to the Dark Angels' record-breaking extortion serves as a warning to the world. It's a reminder that yesterday's record-breaking attack is just a stepping stone for tomorrow's cybercriminals. So, who paid the $75 million ransom? Well, on February 27, 2024, Cencora, formerly known as AmerisourceBergen, a Fortune 50 company, disclosed a data breach to the SEC. Data was exfiltrated from their information systems, the company stated. But what data? How much? The silence on these details was deafening. The potential compromise of personal information hung in the air, yet Cencora offered the bare minimum. What they did say was that the incident had been contained, and that they were working with law enforcement and cybersecurity experts. A textbook response, but one that raised more red flags than it lowered. The timing and nature of this breach aligns to the $75 million ransom payment uncovered by Threat Labs in early 2024. Dark Angels, the shadow group behind some of the largest ransomware attacks in recent history, never claimed responsibility for the Cencora breach. The lack of details from Cencora, the timing of the breach, the involvement of law enforcement, and the eerie silence from Dark Angels all point to a chilling possibility. Was Cencora the unnamed victim who paid the record-breaking $75 million ransom? If so, the data exfiltration mentioned in their disclosure takes on a far more sinister tone. Dark Angels are known to steal between 10 to 100 terabytes for large businesses. For a Fortune 50 company like Cencora, the upper end of that range seems frighteningly possible. The selective file encryption typical of Dark Angels' attacks could explain Cencora's claim of containment. Perhaps they paid the ransom to prevent the encryption of critical systems, a decision that would explain both the record-breaking payment and the tight-lipped nature of their disclosure. Whether they are indeed the victim of the $75 million ransom or not, their experience serves as a warning to all. In the world of cybercrime, silence can be the most telling sound of all. Their highly targeted approach striking at a single large company at a time, turns each attack into a worst-case nightmare scenario for their victims. Data exfiltration, the silent theft of terabytes of data from victims, is a drawn-out process that can span days or even weeks. It's a slow bleed of information that can go unnoticed until it's far too late. Organizations must implement data loss prevention systems, constantly monitoring for unusual network activity and movements. The use of sophisticated tools, like the Ragnarlocker ransomware variant used to encrypt VMware ESXI virtual machines, shows that organizations are struggling to stay ahead of these variants. Consider implementing a thorough update or patching process, and considering advanced virtualization security measures and proactive threat hunting. The importance of incident response planning cannot be overstated. Companies need to have a clear, practiced plan for when, not if, they face a ransomware attack. This includes protocols for isolating affected systems, communicating with stakeholders, and deciding whether to pay a ransom, a decision that carries its own set of horrifying implications. The Dark Angels, emerging from the shadows in May 2022, have proven to be a force of unprecedented terror. Their latest achievement, a $75 million ransom payment in early 2024, proves just how lucrative this cybercriminal and ransomware operation really is. This record-breaking sum isn't just a number. It represents a seismic shift in the landscape of ransomware attacks, setting a new benchmark for cybercriminals. The implications of this payment are far-reaching, potentially emboldening other threat actors to push the boundaries of their demands even further. This record will be broken, and maybe much sooner than you think. The $75 million ransom isn't the end of this story. It's merely the opening move in a new chapter of digital warfare. Leave a comment below on what you would do if you were faced with paying a ransom, but had no backups.
Hey guys, Hacker Gallery here. Today we're diving into a crazy story about cryptocurrency, hackers, and a peculiar new video game. It all started on March 25th, 2024. Yeah, just recently. That's when a game called Hamster Kombat hit the scene. Now, this wasn't your typical game launch on the App Store or Google Play. Nope. Hamster Kombat showed up on Telegram, of all places. So, what's this game all about? Well, imagine you're running your own little cryptocurrency exchange. Sounds complicated, right? But here's the kicker. All you really do is tap on a cute little hamster. Each tap earns you some virtual coins. It's like those old clicker games, but with a crypto twist. Now, the more coins you stack up, the higher your exchange level gets. Higher level means you earn coins faster. It's like a snowball effect. The rich get richer, as they say. But wait, there's more. The game throws in some extra features to keep things interesting. You've got these boosts that can juice up your earnings. Maybe you tap faster, or your energy limit goes up. It's all about maximizing those sweet, sweet coins. For the overachievers out there, Hamster Kombat's got special missions. Complete these, and you're looking at some bonus coins. And if you're feeling social, there's a referral program. Bring your friends into the hamster tapping madness, and you'll get some extra rewards. Now here's where it gets really interesting. There's this thing called the mine section. You can buy special cards here that keep earning you coins even when you're not playing. For up to 3 hours, your virtual hamster keeps on working while you're off doing whatever it is you do when you're not tapping on digital rodents. Sounds simple enough, right? But as we'll see, this cute little game is about to lead us down a rabbit hole, or should I say a hamster tunnel, of cybersecurity nightmares. But we'll get to that. For now, Just picture millions of people tapping away on their phones, watching their virtual coin stacks grow, and dreaming of crypto riches. Little do they know what's lurking just around the corner. Now, folks, here's where things get really interesting. The creators of Hamster Kombat weren't just offering a cute game with a furry mascot. They dangled a carrot in front of players, a big, juicy, crypto-shaped carrot. See, the game promised players a shot at earning real cryptocurrency. Not just any crypto, but a new token based on something called TON. For those not in the know, TON stands for the Open Network, a blockchain platform. The game developers said they'd create this new token later in the year and hand it out to players based on how much they earned in the game. Imagine that, turning your virtual hamster tapping skills into actual digital money. It's like playing Monopoly, but at the end, you get to cash in your colorful bills for real cash. This wasn't just play money anymore. It was a potential pathway to genuine digital currency. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds too good to be true, and you might be right. But here's the kicker. People bought into it. Big time. This promise of crypto riches, it spread like wildfire. Before you could say rodent revolution, Hamster Kombat exploded in popularity. This was massive, monstrous. The game racked up over 250 million players. That's more than the population of most countries. And on Telegram, where the game lived, their channel boasted a whopping 53 million users. Even their YouTube channel rose to 30 million subscribers in less than 2 months, making them one of the fastest growing YouTube channels ever. Just picture it, millions of people all tapping away on their phones, watching virtual hamsters run on their digital wheels, dreaming of striking it rich with this promised cryptocurrency. It was a gold rush for the digital age, with a cute, furry twist. But as with any gold rush, there are always risks lurking beneath the surface. And in the world of crypto and online gaming, those risks can be particularly nasty. But we'll get to that. For now, just imagine the frenzy, the excitement, and, the potential danger of millions of people chasing after a digital dream built on the back of a virtual hamster. It began on March 14th, 2024. That's when Hamster Kombat set up shop on Telegram. For those of you who aren't in the know, Telegram is like WhatsApp's cooler, more secretive cousin. It's a messaging app that's big in the crypto world. But Hamster Kombat didn't stop there. They spread their furry little paws across the internet. Over on X, that's what we used to call Twitter back in the day, their account racked up more than 230,000 followers. That's a lot of people interested in a digital hamster, folks. It's not hard to imagine players getting pretty excited about this. Think about it. The more you play, the more in-game coins you earn, and the bigger your potential slice of this promised crypto pie. It's like being told that your hours of Candy Crush might actually pay off someday. But with numbers that big, and a promise of real crypto on the line, you can bet there was a lot of buzz. Players were likely pouring time into the game, hoping to maximize their earnings before this mystery token appeared. But here's the thing about promises in the world of crypto and online gaming. They don't always pan out the way you hope. And sometimes, that excitement can blind folks to potential risks. As Hamster Kombat's popularity grew, so did the attention from less than friendly characters. looking to cash in on all those eager players. Don't go anywhere. We're about to see how hackers and cyber gangsters were about to cash in on the frenzy and weaponize this game. As the game grew, players started to voice their thoughts, and not all of it was sunshine and rainbows. Some players were asking for an automatic rewards claiming feature. Now, imagine if you had to manually collect your paycheck every hour instead of getting it deposited automatically. That's the kind of convenience these players were after. But here's where things start to get a bit dicey. Some users were scratching their heads, wondering about the game's long-term benefits. It's like they were asking, hey, is this hamster wheel actually going somewhere? It was also noted that players noticed issues with the game's counter and inconsistencies in mining profitability. Not exactly what you want when you're trying to earn crypto, right? But hold on to your hats, because it gets worse. Some players reported significant token losses due to app glitches. We're not talking about losing a few coins here. We're talking about major setbacks within the game. Now, as all this user feedback was bubbling up, some red flags started waving. One big issue: Hamster Kombat was missing some key elements that most legit projects have. No website, no roadmap, no white paper. That's like a restaurant with no menu, no business hours, and no health inspection certificate. Sure, the food might be great, but it's enough to make you think twice before taking a bite. To top it off, the project was compared to something called Notcoin, another game that's still in development with an uncertain future. When you put all these pieces together, it paints a picture that's got more question marks than a game of Guess Who. And in the world of crypto and online gaming, questions often lead to some pretty wild answers. But let's talk about how things are starting to go south for Hamster Kombat. You see, whenever something gets popular online, it attracts two kinds of attention: fans and fraudsters. And boy, did Hamster Kombat attract some nasty characters. Here's what we know for sure. Hackers and other threat actors saw how popular this game was getting and thought, hey, there's an opportunity here. But they weren't interested in tapping virtual hamsters. No, they were after something much more valuable: your personal information. These cyber criminals started creating fake versions of Hamster Kombat. We're talking counterfeit apps for Android phones and bogus software for Windows computers. Now, these weren't just harmless knockoffs. These fake apps were designed to do some serious damage. When unsuspecting players downloaded these fake versions, they were actually installing what we call malware on their devices. Malware is just a fancy term for malicious software. In this case, we're talking about two nasty types: spyware and information stealing malware. Spyware is like a nosy neighbor who's always peeking through your windows, except it's in your phone or computer, watching everything you do. Information-stealing malware is even worse. It's like a burglar that breaks into your digital house and takes off with all your valuable data. Now, you might be wondering, how did people fall for this? Well, since the game lacked some pretty basic stuff that legit projects usually have, like their roadmap, website, and white paper, it was harder for players to verify if they were downloading the real deal or a dangerous fake. It's like trying to spot a counterfeit dollar bill when you've never seen a real one. So there you have it, folks. A popular game with big promises, a lack of official information, and cybercriminals ready to pounce. It's a recipe for disaster that we've seen play out time and time again in the digital world. But remember, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just laying out the facts as we know them. And in the world of Hamster Kombat, the facts were starting to look pretty grim. Remember how I said hackers and cyber gangsters were about to cash in? Well, let's break it down. First off, we've got a bunch of fake Telegram channels popping up. These aren't your friendly neighborhood Hamster Kombat fan clubs. No, these channels are dishing out Android malware to unsuspecting users who are just trying to find the real game. A cybersecurity firm, ESET, they're like the detectives of the digital world. They found something particularly nasty. There was a channel called Hamster that was handing out something called Ratel Android spyware. This Ratel spyware is the kind of thing that can intercept your text messages and notifications. But here's the kicker. It's mainly used to sign you up for premium services without you even knowing. Imagine waking up to find out you've subscribed to a dozen magazines you never wanted. But wait, there's more. This malware is sneaky. It hides notifications from 200 apps on your phone. That means you could be bleeding money through these unwanted subscriptions and you'd never even see the warning signs. And the hackers were cashing in from affiliate programs, generating profit from all the compromised victims that were now paying for these services. And if you thought Android users were the only ones in trouble, think again. Windows users got their own special brand of trouble. There were fake websites out there claiming to offer the game, but instead of cute little hamsters, clicking on these would just redirect you to a bunch of ads, allowing hackers to monetize their malicious acts from all the ad revenue they were suddenly generating. But the real problem for Windows users was something called Stealer. This nasty piece of work was being spread through GitHub repositories. That's like a library for computer code, pretending to be farming bots for the game. But instead of helping you farm, it was farming your personal information. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just laying out the facts as we know them. But let me tell you, in all my years covering digital security, I've seen a lot of schemes. But turning a cute little hamster game into a playground for malware, that's an interesting one. It just goes to show, in the digital world, even the fluffiest, most innocent-looking things can have sharp teeth hiding behind those cute little whiskers. Where does this leave us? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Or should I say, the million-token question. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know for sure what's going to happen with Hamster Kombat. But what we do know is this: there are some serious question marks hanging over this project. No website, no roadmap, no white paper. That's a lot of missing pieces for a game that's gotten so big. So if you're still interested in this hamster-powered crypto dream and you want to stay safe, then listen up. Firstly, and this is crucial, if you're going to play Hamster Kombat, only download it from the official Telegram channel. I know, it sounds simple. But with all the fake apps floating around, this simple step could save you a world of trouble. Next, and this might surprise you, the real Hamster Kombat game? It hasn't been checked for security, and you won't find it on official app stores. That's a red flag, and hopefully, the developers can release some info to put the FUD to rest. And remember that fancy crypto token they promised? Well, as of now, that promise is still unfulfilled. And the white paper, that's like a detailed plan for the project. It's still MIA. Lastly, and I can't stress this enough, be on your guard against copycat apps. So there you have it. The tale of Hamster Kombat, a story of big promises, bigger risks, hackers, and the importance of keeping your digital lives secured. Will this game revolutionize crypto gaming, or will it go down as another cautionary tale in the Wild West of the internet? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. In the world of online gaming and crypto, it pays to be careful. If you've ever played Hamster Kombat, or unfortunately fell victim to the hackers abusing its popularity, then leave a comment below. I'd like to hear your story. Don't go anywhere. We've got more true cybercrime and hacking stories coming right up. Mwah.
In the dark corners of the internet, a sinister entity emerged in June 2022. Like a digital plague, Play Ransomware crept into the world's networks, its name a cruel irony for the devastating game it was about to unleash. Play Ransomware, a type of malicious software designed to encrypt files and demand ransom for their release, quickly gained notoriety in cybersecurity circles. Its creators, faceless figures lurking in the shadows of the dark web, had crafted a tool of digital destruction that would soon wreak havoc on unsuspecting victims. As the months passed, Play Ransomware's list of conquests grew, leaving a trail of high-profile victims in its wake. Like a shark sensing blood in the water, it circled and struck at some of the biggest names in tech and government. As we delve deeper into this story, we'll uncover how Play Ransomware evolved to target these crucial systems, exploiting vulnerabilities that no one saw coming. The Trend Micro's threat hunting team, like seasoned monster hunters, uncovered a Linux variant of Play Ransomware that sent chills down the spines of cybersecurity experts worldwide. This wasn't just another beast in the digital jungle. It was a predator with a taste for VMware ESXI environments. Play Ransomware is the latest ransomware gang to start deploying a dedicated Linux locker for encrypting VMware ESXI virtual machines, the researchers reported, their voices barely masking the tremor of concern. This variant was a wolf in sheep's clothing, a piece of malware that only showed its true colors when running in a VMware ESXi environment. But what made this digital demon truly terrifying was its ability to evade detection. Like a ghost in the machine, it slipped past the most advanced security measures without raising a single alarm. The Linux variant of Play Ransomware showed 0 detections in VirusTotal. VirusTotal, a collaborative platform used by cybersecurity professionals to detect malicious content, had been rendered blind to this new threat. The ransomware's behavior was a carefully orchestrated dance of destruction. First, it performed an ESXi environment check, a sinister reconnaissance to ensure it was in the right hunting ground. The sample runs ESXi-related commands to check that it is running in an ESXi environment before performing its malicious routines. Otherwise, it will terminate and delete itself. But the true horror was yet to unfold. Once the ransomware confirmed its target, it unleashed a series of commands that would make any system administrator's blood run cold. We also found a series of shell script commands that the sample executes once it is running in an ESXi environment. The command below is responsible for scanning and powering off all virtual machines found in the environment. It was as if the ransomware was turning off the lights in a house, one by one, leaving its victims in total darkness. With its prey helpless and blind, the ransomware moved in for the kill. Once the ransomware executes the series of ESXi-related commands, it proceeds to encrypt virtual machine files, including virtual machine disk, configuration, and metadata files. The researchers continued, their words painting a picture of digital carnage. The encryption process was like a virus spreading through a body, corrupting every cell it touched, but the ransomware wasn't content with mere destruction. It left its mark, a chilling signature that would haunt system administrators for years to come. After completing the process, most of the encrypted files inside the guest operating system Ubuntu, as an example, are appended with the file extension .play. This wasn't just an attack, it was a twisted game, with the ransomware declaring play on every file it touched. And as if to twist the knife further, the ransomware left a final, mocking message for its victims. It will also drop a ransom note in the root directory. which is also displayed in the login portal of the ESXI client. This digital specter had not only invaded the system, but now stood at its very entrance, demanding tribute from all who dared to enter. As the cybersecurity world reeled from this new threat, one question lingered in the air like a toxic mist. If this variant of Play ransomware could slip past our defenses undetected, then chances are many more could too. As Trend Micro peeled back the layers of Play ransomware's malevolent code, they stumbled upon a connection so chilling, it made their blood run cold. Like finding a hidden door in a haunted house, they discovered a link to a shadowy figure known only as Prolific Puma. While investigating this Play ransomware sample, Trend Micro also found that the ransomware gang uses the URL shortening services provided by a threat actor tracked as Prolific Puma. Prolific Puma. A name that sent shivers down the spines of cybersecurity experts. This wasn't just another hacker. This was a mastermind of digital deception. Prolific Puma is known to generate domain names using a random destination generator algorithm. It's called RGDA, but the RGDA was just the beginning. Like a spider spinning an invisible web, Prolific Puma offered these generated domains as link shortening services to fellow cybercriminals. It was a digital marketplace of mayhem, where phishing schemes, scams, and malware were traded like contraband. As they delved deeper into the shared infrastructure between Play ransomware and Prolific Puma, the horror of the situation became clear. These weren't isolated incidents. This was a carefully orchestrated symphony of cyber terror. Black box analysis shows that the backdoor was observed connecting to the following IP address. This IP address also resolves to various domains associated with Prolific Puma. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, revealing a picture more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. Play ransomware wasn't just a lone wolf. It was part of a pack, a digital ecosystem of malice that stretched far beyond what anyone had anticipated. As the researchers stared at their screens, the full implications of their discovery sinking in, one thought echoed through their minds. In the vast, dark forest of the internet, Prolific Puma and Play ransomware were not just predators. They were apex predators, evolving, adapting, and always one step ahead of their prey. The question now wasn't just how to stop Play ransomware, but how to dismantle an entire underground network of cyber threats. As the night grew deeper and the screens glowed with the evidence of their discovery, the researchers knew one thing for certain. The real battle had only just begun. As the story unfolds, we find ourselves facing a threat far more insidious than we first imagined. The Play ransomware gang's Linux ESXI VM locker was merely a variant in the grand symphony of cyber devastation. Enter CVE 2024-37085, a vulnerability in ESXI hypervisors that's become the skeleton key for a rogues gallery of ransomware operators. This flaw, lurking in the depths of domain-joined systems, grants full administrative access to those who know its dark secrets. Microsoft researchers have uncovered a vulnerability in ESXI hypervisors being exploited by several ransomware operators to obtain full administrative permissions on domain-joined ESXI hypervisors. This wasn't just any vulnerability. It was a gaping wound in the very fabric of ESXI's security, allowing attackers to waltz right in and take control. The vulnerability, identified as CVE 2024-37085, involves a domain group whose members are granted full administrative access to the ESXI hypervisor by default, without proper validation. But the true horror lay in the simplicity of the exploit. Three methods, each more insidious than the last, allowed these digital intruders to slip past the guards and into the heart of the system. First, the attackers could add the ESX admins group to the domain and add a user to it. It was like leaving a spare key under the doormat, but this key opened every door in the building. Second, they could rename any existing group to ESX admins and add a user or use an existing group member. This was akin to changing the locks, but giving the new keys to the burglars. Third, and perhaps most chilling, was the ESXi hypervisor privileges refresh. This method allowed the attackers to simply wait for the system to reset its own defenses, leaving it wide open for exploitation. As if this wasn't terrifying enough, Microsoft's observations painted a picture of a rapidly escalating threat. The number of Microsoft incident response engagements that involved the targeting and impacting ESXi hypervisors have more than doubled in the last 3 years. But why were these ESXi hypervisors becoming such prime targets for ransomware operators? The answer was as simple as it was terrifying. ESXi is a popular product in many corporate networks. These hypervisors could be convenient targets if ransomware operators want to stay under the Security Operations Center's radar, because many security products have limited visibility and protection for an ESXi hypervisor. It was the perfect storm. A vulnerable target, difficult to protect, with the potential for massive impact. Encrypting an ESXi hypervisor file system allows one-click mass encryption. As hosted VMs are impacted, painting a picture of digital devastation on an unprecedented scale. As the cybersecurity world grappled with this new threat, one question loomed large. In this ever-evolving landscape of digital threats, could our defenses ever truly keep up? In the dead of night, a North American engineering firm fell victim to a digital nightmare orchestrated by the notorious Storm 0506 group. This wasn't just another cyber attack. It was a meticulously planned invasion that would leave the company's virtual infrastructure in ruins. The attack began with a quackbot infection, a malware as insidious as a cancer cell, silently multiplying and spreading through the organization's network. But this was merely the appetizer for the main course of destruction that was to follow. With surgical precision, the attackers exploited a Windows CLFS vulnerability, CVE 2023-28252, elevating their privileges like a thief acquiring a master key to every room in a house. Armed with this newfound power, they deployed Cobalt Strike and PP Cats, tools of the cyber underworld, to steal the credentials of 2 unsuspecting domain administrators. Lateral movement came next. The attackers spread through the network like a virus, infecting 4 domain controllers, the very heart of the organization's IT infrastructure. On these compromised controllers, they planted their seeds of destruction custom tools and a System BC implant, ensuring their persistence in the system. But the true horror was yet to come. Exploiting the ESXi vulnerability, CVE 2024-37085, yes, the same one from before, the attackers gained elevated privileges to the ESXi hypervisors. This was the digital equivalent of obtaining launch codes for nuclear weapons. With this level of access, they created an ESX admins group in the domain and added a new user account to it. The final act of this cyber tragedy was swift and merciless. The attackers unleashed their ransomware, encrypting the ESXi file system and rendering the hosted virtual machines useless. In the blink of an eye, the entire digital infrastructure of the engineering firm was reduced to encrypted gibberish. This attack serves as a chilling reminder of the evolving ransomware landscape. The targeting of ESXi hypervisors represents a new frontier in cyber warfare, allowing attackers to achieve maximum impact with minimal effort. It's a stark warning to organizations worldwide. The virtual foundations upon which modern businesses are built are your crown jewels. You better protect them with everything you've got, or be prepared to pay the ultimate price. As we look to the future, the race between attackers and defenders intensifies. The cybersecurity community must adapt, developing new strategies to protect these critical virtualized environments. But as defenses evolve, so too will the attacks. If you're enjoying the video so far, leave a like and subscribe. But don't go anywhere. The next true cybercrime story will leave your jaw to the floor.
There is a Chinese hacking group that was born sometime around 2012. They would soon come to be known by many names and are currently tracked publicly as Storm Bamboo, Evasive Panda, Daggerfly, and Stormcloud. These hackers, originating in the vast landscapes of China, were not content to haunt just their homeland. No, their ambitions stretched far beyond, like tendrils of mist creeping across borders. They set their sights on a tapestry of nations, each a potential treasure trove of secrets. Imagine, if you will, the bustling streets of Hong Kong, where East meets West in a dance of commerce and culture. Here, amid the neon lights and towering skyscrapers, our hackers wove their invisible web. In Macau, where fortunes are won and lost in the blink of an eye, they lurk, their presence unfelt, but ever present. But their reach extended even further. Across the seas to Nigeria, here too these hackers found fertile ground for their activities. And in Southeast and East Asian countries, from the bustling markets of Bangkok to the high-tech corridors of Singapore, they left their invisible footprints. Now you might wonder, what is this cyber espionage they engaged in? Think of it as digital spying. These hackers, they're like unseen thieves in the night. But instead of breaking into homes, they break into computers and networks. They're after information, secrets that governments and big companies keep locked away in digital vaults. And what of this term, advanced persistent threat? It's a fancy way of saying these aren't your everyday hackers. No, these are the cream of the crop. The ones who stick around like a bad cold, always finding new ways to sneak in when you think you've locked all the doors. For 10 long years, from 2012 to 2022, Storm Bamboo and its many aliases worked in the shadows. They were patient, methodical, like a spider slowly spinning its web. Each thread carefully placed, each target meticulously chosen. They weren't after quick gains or flashy headlines. No, their game was the long con, gathering bits and pieces of information, building a puzzle only they could see. As we peer into this digital underworld, we must remember that in our modern age, the most dangerous predators often leave no physical trace. They strike from afar, their weapons not guns or knives, but lines of code and cleverly crafted emails. And as our story unfolds, you'll see just how deep this digital rabbit hole goes. As spring blossomed in April 2023, a sinister plot unfolded in the digital realm like a thief creeping through an open window. Our elusive group of hackers, known by many names, but let's call them Evasive Panda, set their sights on a popular messaging app called Tencent QQ. Tencent QQ is like a bustling town square where people gather to chat and share news, but on your computer or phone. Millions of people in China use it every day, trusting it with their conversations and personal information. But Evasive Panda had a trick up their sleeve. They found a way to slip their own code into the app's regular updates. It's as if they managed to sneak a false notice onto the town's bulletin board. And when people read it, they unknowingly invited trouble into their homes. This sneaky code was called MessageBot. Think of it as a tiny robot that hides in your computer, watching everything you do and reporting back to its masters. It's a type of program called a backdoor because it creates a secret entrance into your device that the hackers can use whenever they want. What's particularly cunning about this attack is that Evasive Panda has been using versions of MessageBot since 2012. It's like an old lock-picking tool they've been refining for years, making it more and more effective. The hackers weren't targeting just anyone. No, they had their sights set on a very specific group of people. members of an international non-governmental organization, or NGO for short, found themselves in the crosshairs. These are folks who often work on social or environmental issues, trying to make the world a better place. And not just any NGO members, mind you. The victims were mostly located in 3 Chinese provinces: Gansu, Guangdong, and Jiangsu. It's as if our hackers had a map with these areas circled in red. Now you might wonder why these people, why these places? But that's the mystery that keeps cybersecurity researchers up at night. What information were the hackers after? What plans were they trying to uncover or disrupt? As the researchers who discovered this attack pieced together the clues, they realized they were looking at something bigger than just a random act of cybercrime. This was a carefully planned operation, a digital heist targeting specific information. And so, as spring turned to summer, the cybersecurity world buzzed with this new revelation. Evasive Panda had struck again, proving once more that in our interconnected world, danger can lurk in the most unexpected places, even in a simple app update. The cyber sleuths at Symantec, ever vigilant in their quest to protect the internet, stumbled upon a chilling discovery. Our old friends, the Evasive Panda hacking group, had been busy in their digital workshop, crafting new and improved tools for their nefarious deeds. Imagine, if you will, a master locksmith refining their skeleton keys. That's what Evasive Panda had done with their malware. They'd created new versions of 2 particularly nasty programs, MACMA, designed to slip into Apple computers, and NightDoor, built to creep into Windows machines. These weren't just simple updates, they were full-blown evolutions of their digital breaking and entering tools. Now, you might wonder, what makes these new versions so special? Well, let me paint you a picture. Think of MACMA and NightDoor as twin siblings, raised in the same household but each with their own unique talents. They share a common foundation, a shared library of code, if you will. This shared code is like a Swiss Army knife for hackers, packed with useful tools. First, it can juggle multiple tasks at once, like a digital circus performer. Second, it can set alarms and timers, perfect for coordinating sneaky activities. Third, it can package up data neatly, ready to be sent back to its masters. And perhaps most impressively, it can adapt to different environments, like a chameleon changing its colors. It's a flexible, powerful toolkit that makes these malware programs more effective and harder to detect. Anyway, September 2023, our digital villains, Storm Bamboo, set their sights on a new target, the Tibetan community. This wasn't just another hack. It was a carefully orchestrated campaign that would stretch on for months, showcasing a level of sophistication that sent chills down the spines of cybersecurity experts worldwide. Picture, if you will, a grand festival, the Monlam Festival, a time of prayer and celebration for Tibetan Buddhists. Now imagine this joyous occasion being used as cover for one of the most intricate cyber attacks we've seen. That's exactly what happened when Storm Bamboo launched their multi-pronged assault. A campaign was uncovered since at least September 2023 that has been victimizing Tibetans through a targeted watering hole, also known as a strategic web compromise, and a supply chain compromise to deliver Trojanized installers of Tibetan language translation software. In simple terms, first, they used what's called a watering hole attack. Imagine a lion waiting by a watering hole for unsuspecting prey. That's what Storm Bamboo did, but in the digital world. They targeted the Kagyu International Monlam Trust website, a place Tibetans would naturally visit for information about the festival. When visitors came to this digital watering hole, they were unknowingly exposed to malware. How did they do this? Well, they got sneaky with something called jQuery. It's a tool many websites use to make pages more interactive. The attackers injected their malicious code into a jQuery file on the website. When visitors loaded the page, this nasty code would run in the background, potentially infecting their devices. But Storm Bamboo didn't stop there. They also compromised a Tibetan software company. This is what we call a supply chain attack. Imagine if a toy company started shipping out teddy bears with hidden cameras inside. That's kind of what happened here, but with software. The attackers managed to sneak their malware into Tibetan language translation software. When people downloaded and installed what they thought was legitimate software, they were actually inviting Storm Bamboo's malware into their computers. The malware they used wasn't just run-of-the-mill stuff either. They deployed sophisticated tools called Minkbot and Night Door backdoors. These are like secret passages into your computer, allowing the attackers to sneak in and out, stealing information or planting more malware whenever they wanted. But here's where it gets really interesting. The attackers weren't just targeting Tibetans. Researchers found that the attack cast a much wider net. It was discovered that the attackers targeted users in India, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Australia, and the United States. This wasn't just about spying on one community, it was a global operation. The malware used something called MD5 hashing with assault to hide a specific component of their code. The researchers uncovered the secret hash and decrypted the code, which led them to discovering a range of specific IP address ranges. There were a total of 74 different IP address ranges, which means the virus would check if the target has that IP address, and would only execute if so. If they didn't have this IP address, then the virus would terminate its execution. This level of sophistication showed that Storm Bamboo were orchestrating complex, long-term campaigns that could potentially compromise thousands of users across multiple countries. The cybersecurity community was left scrambling to catch up, wondering what this group's next move might be and who else might be in their crosshairs. As we move forward in our story, remember this moment. It marks a turning point in the capabilities of our digital adversaries and a reminder of the evolving threats we face in cybersecurity. Let's come face to face with Storm Bamboo's crown jewel, the Night Door backdoor. This isn't just another piece of malware. It's the culmination of years of development, a testament to the group's growing sophistication. Imagine, if you will, a master key that can unlock virtually any door in the digital world. That's what Night Door represents for Storm Bamboo. First spotted in 2020, it's a relatively new addition to their toolkit, but don't let its youth fool you. Now let's break down what makes Night Door so special. First, it's incredibly sneaky in how it communicates. The researchers found that the backdoor communicates with its CNC server via UDP, or the Google Drive API. In simple terms, it's like having two different phone lines to call home. If one gets blocked, it can switch to the other. But here's where it gets really clever. Night Door doesn't just hide in your computer, it sets up shop in your Google Drive. Night Door creates a folder in Google Drive containing the victim's MAC address, which also acts as a victim ID. It's like the malware is leaving a calling card in each computer it infects, but hiding it in a place you'd least expect. Your own cloud storage. The technical brilliance of Night Door doesn't stop there. Its structure is like a secret code, designed to fly under the radar of most security systems. Here's what it looks like. Now that might look like gibberish to most of us, but each part has a specific meaning. 1, 2. The first part is like a secret handshake identifying the message as a Night Door command. That long string of letters and numbers, it's a unique identifier for the message. 168 tells the malware how big the message is. The 0 is a placeholder for a file name, which is always blank in this case. 1 or 0 tells the malware what type of command it is. 41116 is the specific command ID. Another 0 is for something called quality of service. And that string of zeros at the end, that's where the victim's unique computer ID would normally go. What makes Night Door particularly dangerous is its versatility. It can work on different types of computers and adapt its behavior based on its environment. The discovery of Night Door marks a turning point in this true cybercrime story. It shows that Storm Bamboo isn't just another hacking group. They're innovators in the world of cyber espionage. With tools like Nightdoor at their disposal, they've elevated their game to a new level of sophistication and danger. In cybersecurity, today's cutting-edge threat can quickly become tomorrow's standard operating procedure. Nightdoor represents not just Storm Bamboo's current capabilities, but a glimpse into the future of cyber threats we all might face. Now, most recently, in August 2024, what are these Chinese hackers up to? Picture, if you will, a bustling digital city. At its heart lies an internet service provider, or ISP, a grand central station of sorts, directing the flow of data to countless homes and businesses. Now, imagine a group of hackers infiltrating this station, quietly altering the signs and redirecting trains of information to their own secret destinations. This, dear viewers, is precisely what Storm Bamboo, our elusive hacker group, managed to achieve. It's as if they'd found a way to contaminate the water supply of our digital city, but instead of water, they were tainting the very updates meant to keep our devices safe and functional. But how did they pull off such a brazen attack? The answer lies in a vulnerability as old as the internet itself. You see, many software updates travel over something called HTTP. Think of it as an unsealed envelope carrying a message. Storm Bamboo found a way to intercept these envelopes and replace the contents with their own malicious code. Users downloading genuine software updates were receiving the malicious HTTP internet traffic packets. The computers receiving these updates had no way to tell the difference. One of the applications caught in this devious trap was 5K Player, a popular media player. Every time someone started this app, it would check for updates. The app binary automatically checks if a new version of YouTube DL is available. This routine check, meant to keep the software up to date and secure, became the very avenue through which Storm Bamboo spread its digital poison. The malware they deployed in this campaign was not just one flavor, but two: MacMa for Apple computers and Pokastic, also known as MG-Bot for Windows machines. These digital intruders, once installed, could spy on users, steal information, and even take control of the infected devices. This attack marked a significant escalation in Storm Bamboo's activities. No longer content with targeting specific applications or organizations, they had now compromised a fundamental piece of internet infrastructure. It was as if they'd gone from picking individual locks to stealing the master key for an entire building. The implications were staggering. Anyone using services provided by this compromised ISP was potentially at risk. It didn't matter if you were a large corporation, a small business, or just someone checking their email at home. If you were connected to this ISP and downloaded an update, you might have inadvertently invited Storm Bamboo into your digital life. As news of this attack spread, there was concern throughout communities. If one ISP could be compromised in this way, were others also at risk? How many updates had been poisoned before the attack was discovered? And perhaps most chillingly, what information had Storm Bamboo managed to steal in the process? For now, the ISP that was compromised is unknown. You that are watching right now, listen to me quickly. Just remember this moment. This represents not just an escalation in Storm Bamboo's capabilities, but a reminder of the vulnerabilities that lie hidden in the systems we rely on every day. On the internet, a single compromised link can have far-reaching consequences across Earth. Think about some of these things. And if you're enjoying the video so far, leave a comment below on what the worst thing to get compromised could be. The heroes of our story. The folks at ESXI. Those tireless cybersecurity researchers who first uncovered Storm Bamboo's grand scheme. They didn't just sit on their discovery. No, they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. ESXI reaches out to the compromised internet service provider. They tell the ISP, hey, your network's been hijacked. We need to check it out. The ISP, now aware of the threat lurking in their systems, jumps into action. They start poking around their network, focusing on the devices that handle traffic routing. The ISP starts shutting down parts of their network, rebooting devices left and right. It's a bit like turning your computer off and on again when it's acting up, but on a massive scale. And would you believe it? As soon as they did this, the DNS poisoning, that's the trick Storm Bamboo was using to redirect internet traffic, stopped dead in its tracks. It's like they flipped a switch, and suddenly, Storm Bamboo's secret highway of stolen data vanished into thin air. That's the last we've heard of Storm Bamboo. Subscribe if you want to stay updated into this group's activities. Now, what can we do to protect ourselves from them? Well, we have a few recommendations. 1, keep your software up to date. Those pesky update notifications, they're actually trying to protect you. 2, be wary of unsecured connections. If a website doesn't have HTTPs at the start of its address, think twice before entering any sensitive information. 3, use strong, unique passwords for each of your accounts. Use a password manager, it's 2024 guys. 4, be cautious about what you download, even if it seems to come from a trusted source. 5, consider using a virtual private network, or VPN, to add an extra layer of security to your internet connection. Remember, in the digital world, we're all in this together. Every device, every network, every user is a potential target. In the end, it's not about eliminating all risks. That's impossible in our connected world. It's about being prepared, being smart, and being resilient. Because in this ongoing game of digital cat and mouse, we're all players, whether we like it or not. So, my friends, stay safe out there. And remember, in the world of cybersecurity, sometimes the best defense is a good offense.